Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the In-Depth series. The demand for Greater Tipraland has again gained momentum. So that is why it is important that we talk about it. From the perspective of GS Mains Paper 2nd, it is important to know about all this, such as what is the issue about Greater Tipraland, historical background, reasons for this demand, does Parliament have powers to create new states? Then the 6th schedule, what initiatives have the government undertaken to address this issue, why the demand for creation of new states in general, they occur, the issues and the way forward. So the demand again has gained momentum to have a separate Tripraland like the Greater Nagaland and many other states, specifically in the Northeast, are talking about having their own separate states. The party which is very much in vogue, we can say, which has gained a lot of political support in Tripura, they are demanding a separate state of Greater Tipraland. For whom? For indigenous communities in the northeastern states. Now they are asking the centre to use their powers under Article 2nd and 3rd of the Constitution to carve out the separate state. In the among the 19 notified scheduled tribes in Tripura, Tripuris, they are also known as Tripura or Triprasas. They are the largest of the communities, scheduled tribes, we can say. Not only they want the Tripraland, not only for the indigenous people, but also for all the communities who are living in the Tripura Tribal Area Autonomous District Council area. Okay, moving on now, as we can see, let's talk about Tripura. The capital is Agartala. It has 2 parliamentary constituencies and literacy is 87.75%. Their official languages are English, Bengali and Kokborok. Okay, and the statehood, granting of statehood was done in the year 1972 on 21st of January. Moving on, now let's talk about Greater Tipraland. See, they want that another state by the name of Greater Tipraland is created, which consists of regions under Tripura Tribal Area Autonomous District Council area and 36 villages out of it within the Tripura state boundaries as well. Tipra Motha is demanding that this area should be carved out as a state or even a union territory, and this should be an extension of the ruling tribal partner Indigenous Peoples Front of Tripura IPFT's demand for Tripraland. This is just an extension. Okay, moving on, if we talk about the historical background, see, Tripura was erstwhile, we can say, under which dynasty? Manikya dynasty. Okay, so Manikya dynasty used to rule this region until this was done from 13th century until the signing of the instrument of accession with the Indian government in 1949. And this led to the anxiety of the indigenous ethnic groups which were there. They thought that their culture would disappear in some times to come because of course they will now become a part of India. Then comes the displacement of Bengalis from the erstwhile East Pakistan between the years 1947 and 71 before the liberation war, as well as this particular region, specifically the northeastern regions, were registering a lot of incursion, or we can say migration from East Pakistan. So they started getting anxiety, they started getting anxious and they started getting fearful of the fact that now they might, as they were a majority back then, they might turn into a minority. So from 63.77% in 1881, the population of tribals in Tripura, it was down to 31.80%, and this was done by 2011. So they started getting dislodged from the land reserved for them by the penultimate king of Manikya dynasty, Pradyot Kishore Debbarma, and that added to the anxiety. So it was all evidence based. So now the TTADC receives 2% of the state budget. They do not have a lot to do when it comes to financing their survival according to them, and they have the 40% of the state population. So 2% of the budget for 40% of the state population, this is very meager. And because of the unfulfilled demands of revising the National Register of Citizens and also against the Citizenship Amendment Act as they are, what happens that these anxieties start to bubble up, and this bubble up of anxiety becomes a demand for validation, cultural validation, citizen validation. So what happens that this is we can say these are the reasons for demand. But there were also turbulent, violent struggles by different outlawed insurgent groups in Tripura only, like the Tripura National Volunteers United, Bengali Liberation Front, National Liberation Front of Tripura, All Tripura Tiger Force. And what do they want? They all want one thing, that they should determine their existence by self, the right to self-determination and have their sovereignty, although on different ethnic and community lines. See, these all have a single narrative, but they have a single narrative as in for self-determination, but their self-determination is very subjective and different with each other. And when many different forces come together and they do not have a single narrative, it becomes very hard to look at them as one common identity. Okay, so keep all this in mind. Now, does the Parliament have the powers to carve out new states? It does. According to Article 2 of the Indian Constitution, Parliament by law admit into union or establish new states on such terms and condition as it thinks fit. States like Sikkim became a part of India under Article 2 only. Article 3, according to it, the Parliament may by law, which relates to the formation of new states and alteration of existing states, have their power imposed. The Parliament can do that. Okay. Now, what initiatives have the government taken to address such issues? First of all, it created the Tripura Tribal Area Autonomous District Council, going by the 6th schedule of the Constitution. This was done in 1985, and it was to ensure development and secure the rights and cultural nuances of the tribes that are there. That see, this is a group for you and you can express yourself with the help of this council. It has legislative and executive powers. It covers nearly 2/3 of the state's geographical area, and it comprises of 30 members, of which 28 are elected and 2 are nominated by the governor. Okay, let's talk about the 6th schedule soon. See, the government has also given them reservation. How? Out of the 60 assembly seats in the states, 20 have been reserved for the scheduled tribes. Okay, so they are represented. Now, if we talk about the 6th schedule, it talks about the administration in tribal dominant areas of 4 northeastern states. Okay, one is Assam, second is Mizoram, third is Tripura, and then we have Meghalaya. It was added in the constitution on the recommendation of whom? Bordoloi Committee, and it provides a limited autonomy to tribal region so that they can conserve their right, culture and linguism and ethnicity as well. Under this, we have Meghalaya. Meghalaya has its Khasi Hill Autonomous District Council, Jaintia Hill Autonomous District Council, Garo Hill Autonomous District Council. In Mizoram, we have Chakma Autonomous District Council, Lai Autonomous District Council, and Mara Autonomous District Council. In Tripura, we have TTA DC. In Assam, we have Dima Hasao Autonomous Council, Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council, and Bodoland, so that all the narratives are protected and not any sort of alienation takes place in these 4 northeastern states. Generally, the demand for a separate state, it stems out from certain reasons. First is, generally, if there is a big state but smaller sub-regions are there which are not economically as powerful as the rest of the state, they start getting insecure. So they think that if we have a separate statehood, we can be more economically important. There is also, due to the lack of industry, the crisis of agrarian structure, and the level of low level of infrastructural penetration can also make them feel insecure, and that is why they want to have the right to self-determine themselves for the economic importance of the state and the country. And there are also linguistic and cultural conditions. If a sub-region, if the majority of the region starts imposing their culture or linguism on the minorities, they feel threatened, and that can also result in coming out with the demands such as having a separate state. There are many issues if the government starts granting everybody to have a state. First, setting up of various institutions, government offices, universities, and the logistic take a lot of toll on the treasury. How many finances, how much finances are needed, and how will we cover those finances are one of the issues. Different statehood may lead to the hegemony of dominant communities. It will also lead to short-term political approach towards the greater problems of development and corruption. And intra-regional rivalries will also occur in the small states. So that is not correct. Moving on, let's talk about the way forward. First of all, we should ensure that all the regions are getting developed economically in a balanced way. Other than that, there should also be certain clear-cut parameters and safeguards to check, unfettered demands. These are generally done on the political lines. We have to ensure that if we are looking at certain demands, it should be stemming out from developmental gaps or other gaps, cultural gaps. It is also important to allow democratic concerns like development, decentralization, and governance to, to take out these demands of separate states rather than religion, caste, language, or dialect. How far will we go? And governance deficit must be addressed, such as no corruption. If there is corruption, then no corruption. If there is a lack of development, then we should ensure development. If there is a lack of cultural, imperatives or linguistic imperatives, how to encourage cultural integration and safeguarding their culture and linguism should also be there. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching.